Hello, this is Randy Martin, CEO and founder of Covenant Community Services, and I'm excited to share a message today with you about hope. We're hitting some very challenging times in our nation, in our community, and in the world. And I think with all the chaos and confusion, it's often good to reflect back on what works. Each month at Covenant, we teach life skills classes to former foster youth and foster youth. And this month I was scheduled to teach a class on developmental assets. A developmental asset is simply a support or strength known to help youth succeed. This concept was developed by the Search Institute, and they came up with both external assets and internal assets. At times like this, internal assets are so key. You may have money in the bank, be the most handsome person on the planet, have cars, houses, and all those things, but if you don't have hope or a good attitude, it really doesn't matter. Some of you have heard of Zig Ziglar or John Maxwell. They're really good attitude speakers, and it was Zig Ziglar that coined the phrase that it is your attitude that will develop your altitude. In fact, he even said that attitude matters more than aptitude. So it's not your ability always that's going to win the day, but it's your attitude and how you look at things. So at times like we're facing now, it's our internal fortitude, our internal assets that will help us to thrive and not just to survive. So this message is going to focus on internal assets, and specifically one that is tied to hope and a good attitude. And that simply is having a positive outlook about the future. You know, so many times we get caught up in situations where we really don't have any control. And if you think back to the areas of your life or times in your life where things were very difficult, the one thing that usually gets us through is our attitude. It's usually not some other external factor or even our ability to do something. It's our attitude that shapes and wins the day. So this internal asset is a positive view of a personal future. And a young person would be optimistic about their personal future. Now that sounds a lot like the definition of hope, an expectation of a future good or a future reward. So in the most basic sense, this is really about an attitude fueled by hope. But conversely, it's also hope that's fueled by a positive attitude. Your brain is a very, very unique gift, and I've been reading a lot of brain and neurology studies about how we function, and just in the size of your thumbnail are more connections and neurons than all the stars in the galaxy, just that amount of space in your head, which means that you have a lot of power and functioning ability that's ran by your brain. But so many times we're just run, one of the books is called Incognito. There's someone else running our brain. It's in incognito messaging, and we just kind of get settled into it. So you might react typically with doubt, despair, discouragement, defeat. But in times of crisis, we really need to have the fortitude and the ability to take that attitude inventory and start to challenge those belief systems so that we become the people that we really want to be. As I tell my family, I want to be the person my dog thinks I am. So again, that quote by Zig Ziglar, it's your attitude more than your aptitude that will determine your altitude. So how far you go, how far you fly is really dependent upon that attitude, upon your outlook. And at times like this, man, that outlook has to be shaped with hope. It has to be shaped with reality. It has to be shaped with faith. A lot of things you're going to hear me say are coming from a Judeo-Christian background. And that's one of the foundations, the foundation of my positive attitude, is that the day's won already. I just need to participate in it. So as you're facing day 4 of a lockdown from schools, kids are home, you're doing homework, you're trying to work, we're trying to figure out employment, unemployment, stores are shut down, people fighting over toilet paper. Do we have an attitude of joy, peace that sees opportunities in this challenge? Are we just navigating with fear, bouts of insanity and craziness and cabin fever? I tell you, you need to get a jump on this now and start to structure and build your day for success with these positive attitude traits rather than just become overwhelmed. It'll be like a crashing flood, but you know what? You can raise a standard against that. So as this coronavirus is hitting our communities, set your attitude now for success. Look at the challenges as opportunities. Think of things in a different light. Look at things with a different lens. Things aren't going to be like this forever, but it's your choice now on how you're going to shape the day. So I say seize the day. Create awesome moments that will become memories later on, not dreadful situations. So attack the day with that great and positive attitude, and you'll see things pop around. You'll see things come to your favor. So during this crisis, we need to reflect back on some of the things we've learned. And I was lucky enough early on in a ministry career to be involved with Dr. Daniel Amen of the Amen Clinic. And he was one of the foremost neurological minds out there studying SPECT scans and coming up with different ways that we can both change our brain, change our life, and also just influence ourselves for well-being. And one of his studies that I loved was about this concept in our mind of automatic negative thoughts. So he called them ants. And I want to go over a list of ants that you may practice. I know I've practiced almost all of them at one time or another, but they're things that we need to watch out for. Just like ants would ruin a picnic or a party, they'll ruin your brain when you start to get these negative thoughts going through, and you'll start to become more of that person that gets caught up in the confusion and the chaos and the crisis rather than this positive attitude that helps you glide through it with that sense of joy and sense of peace and deep love. You see, we really are what we think. And this is a great computer. This is a great mechanism to help us guide life. But you are in control and you shape that. So if what you think is good, then you'll probably have good outcomes. If what you think is bad, then you're probably going to have bad outcomes. And those are the simple results. But the good news is you can train, retrain, retool your brain. You can re-engineer that thing. The whole story about the old dog can't learn new tricks is not true when it comes to your brain. You can do a lot of work. You can do a lot of brain work. You can be mindful and start to apply some small tips that'll change your daily outlook. So once again, man, over the past 25 years of leading people and teams, I can tell you this for a fact, from my experience. It is not the qualities of the person's ability and skill that win the day. You can have good people that do great things, but a good attitude will always lead to great outcomes. Bad things do happen. One of the blessings and negative memories of this past year was losing a dear friend, Paul Roselle. But I tell you what, his funeral shocked me to the core. And the reason why is because of his attitude. Throughout all of the things that happened to this great man of faith, his attitude was positive the whole way through. And it was the joy of God, the joy of the Lord. It was peace that helped him weather the storm, that helped him come through those challenges better and not bitter. It'd be very easy for him just to complain and groan, but that's surviving, not thriving. Instead, he took the opportunity to thrive in the midst of a huge personal and family crisis. And I remember sitting at that funeral saying, man, this guy was the model of how to fight the fight with a great attitude. So you can overcome the doubt, the defeat, the discouragement. And as you feel yourself sliding into that negative thing, just remember this. You can give yourself an attitude adjustment. Attitude is so vital. In a book called Learned Optimism by Dr. Martin Seligman, he conducted this massive study of individuals and found that attitude is what won the day for them. In fact, it got them better jobs, led them to make more money, divorce less frequently, and raise kids that behaved rather than get in trouble. So attitude matters, and it really does shape who we are and what we become. But I tell you what, at times like this, it's going to drastically improve your day. So when you're walking through that store, or when you are sequestered at home, when you're dealing with the kids or a loved one, just remember, talent and mobility are only going to take you so far, that the attitude is going to determine your success. Yeah. So common attitude issues, right? Doubt. That's going to tell you can't do it. It's overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed. This is an overwhelming situation. Whatever it is you're facing, doubt will scream at you. An attitude of doubt will scream at you that you're uncertain and you cannot do this. You can't accomplish that task. You can't possibly homeschool your kids. You can't get to the grocery store and watch your kids. You can't work and watch your kids. Yeah, I get it. There's a bunch of realities out there of stuff, but doubt is never going to win it. There are creative solutions inside of it. Defeat's another attitude that will just ruin everything. So defeat just tells you that you're never going to win. The battle's already lost. You can't win. And when defeat creeps in, you're accepting those lies that say, I can't change the way I am, or that's just how I feel. No, you can change defeat. And faith is one of those things where you can have a rock solid stance and platform to say the victory's already won. You're just going through this life. It's not a dress rehearsal, don't get me wrong, but don't let defeat and attitude defeat rock the day. Next one's discouragement. Discouragement just tells you you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not tall enough. You don't have enough money in the bank. You're not athletic enough. Yeah, you're not enough of anything. But the truth is you are. You were created on purpose and for a purpose. So don't let discouragement rock your attitude. And those three combined kind of push us into the biggest attitude, which is just despair. When you have a despairing attitude, man, there's no end in sight. There's no hope, and depression is soon to follow. You're losing hope and the thoughts that thing will get better. So that directly goes against the developmental asset of having a positive outlook for the future. Okay, that's saying that we're going to get through this. We're going to weather the storm. There's great, smart people on this all around the world, and we're going to get through. So we just need to be cool, chill out, change our attitude, look into this in a way where we can explore what's happening in our mind and how that's affecting our behavior, our speech, and our heart. Your soul wants rest. It wants peace. You can find that in God, but you've got to control your brain to get there. You've got to have a positive attitude that shapes your life. So in Dr. Amen's book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, again, going back to those automatic negative thoughts or ants. These are thought patterns that are negative. So we're going to look at some of them now. One that I find myself in the trap of using is always thinking. And this is when we're even communicating this to someone. You always do that, or this always works out this way. And when you get in always thinking, right, you are setting a trap for your mind, your heart, your soul, and your spirit that you know what's going to happen. You're almost predicting the future. Using things like always, never, no one, or everyone, or every time, or everything. This is always type of thinking where you're already predicting what's going to happen. So guess what your brain's getting ready to do? It's already preparing for all that negative stuff because you always know what's going to happen. So get rid of that. Another one we do is focus on the negative. So easy. So easy to get in a car with someone, they're driving down the street, and everything that happens is bad. There's no good drivers in California. Don't people know about the left lane? Don't people know how to speed? What about turn signals? Look at this guy. What's he doing? This person's on my back. Then you get to the store and it's even more fun. How come this person's doing this, doing that? Just can't be negative thinking. Fortune telling is a huge one. You know what everybody's going to think before they think it, and what they're going to say before they say it. So your brain already goes ahead and predicts your response. You're not even listening. You're just fortune telling, which comes from the other one, which is mind reading. You know what people are already doing. And even though they haven't told you, you didn't even ask, you know how they're thinking. So fortune telling and mind reading are pretty connected, but don't do it. That once you see that attitude coming in, just drop it and say, you know what, I'm going to go into this situation anew and afresh. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to listen and ask good questions, but I'm not going to fortune tell. The other one's thinking with your feelings. And this is when you believe negative feelings without ever even questioning them. You just take an emotion and you put it in your bank and then you let it apply to your head and you just start acting on this emotional thought. Yes, emotions are good, but don't think through that feeling. Take time, recognize it, and attack it and say it could not even be about you. One of the ones we also do in automatic negative thought is guilt beatings. You say, I should have, I must have, I ought to, you can't go back in time. So let's go forward. Don't let yourself get beat up with that. You can learn lessons, but don't get beat up. Another one is labeling. This is when you attach a negative label to yourself or someone else. You're just already saying, oh, that guy's a this, or she's a that, or I'm a this, or my kid's a that, right? Don't do that. Don't label, because people become what you say they are, right? At least in your mind, which is the powerful thing. The other one is don't personalize everything. A seemingly innocent event, and you can take it to a personal negative meaning. So someone cuts you off, suddenly, it's the end of the world. Someone takes the last roll of toilet paper in the store and you have a personal crisis. That person hates you. No, they're just got there before you. Blame is another ant. This is probably one of the most harmful ants we can experience. And that's when it happens, when we just blame somebody for our own problems. Rather than just saying, hey, wait a minute, what's my engagement in this? We look in the mirror when we have a problem and say, I'm responsible. We look out the window when we have success. But most of the time, we look out the window when there's a problem and look in the mirror for success. Blame just needs to have an honest opinion in your own heart and head where you can say, I'm not sure I have to blame someone for that. Maybe I can take some of the responsibility and own up to my own personal choices. So getting rid of these ants is paramount. Now, I don't know which ones were the big ticket items for you. Maybe it was blame or always thinking or negative thoughts or negative feelings that lead to forecasting or fortune telling or mind reading. But let's just get rid of those, catch them. So the first thing you have to do in these solutions, which there are solutions in how you can train your brain, is just to recognize, stop, be aware of your thoughts. It's called mindfulness. You'll be hearing tons about it. Simply recognize thoughts, acknowledge them. Don't beat yourself up about having those thoughts, but say, man, this is a thought I have and I want to fix it. I love to journal. I suggest you grab a journal and start writing down what you're thinking about this historic time, what your kids are saying, what your family's saying, learn about things. But tackle the ants by recognizing that they're even there. The worst thing about a picnic would be having ants and not even knowing you have the ants as you eat your sandwich. So if you got ants in your brain, get rid of them. Get rid of the self-talk, the pessimistic thoughts. Recognize it and just ditch it. Once you start to analyze what's going on in your head, now you can release those negative thoughts. I love what the Bible says in Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts I think of you, says the Lord, thoughts of good, not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. So accept those thoughts, recognize them, deal with them as non-truths, and then you start to rock your world. You know, if I followed every belief, I never would have went to Cal State Bakersfield. When I played soccer there, they had never won an NC2A game. By the time I left, there was one part in our season where we went 18-0 and we were ranked 4th in the nation. Then they won a national title years later. But you know what? If we would have believed that we were never going to win, we never would have won. But you have to have a belief system that rocks all those things. So recognize the truth. Yeah, we were horrible, but we can get better. Also, now start to look at what's going to happen in your life. Look at the success that's already happened. What things have you done well? What things have challenged this thought process that you're never going to win? One, you're here. Two, you've got things going on in your life you need to be thankful for. Recognize those things. Just don't let the negative eat you up. Look at that positive stuff. And then begin to replace those negative thoughts. So recognize it, analyze it, take some look what you're doing wrong, and then replace it. And the work we do with former foster youth and foster kids years ago, there's replacement behaviors. And that's when you have one behavior, you replace it with something else. So what replaces an ant? A pat, a positive, affirming thought. So if you got an ant, I feel like this world's going to end, becomes a positive, affirming thought. Our community, experts, medical field, government are working hard to solve this virus issue. We're going to get through it. Don't let the ants overwhelm your life. Change them into pats. Ant, pat. Give yourself a pat on the back, a pat in the brain. This ant, I'm not going to do good on this report or this work issue or this event, becomes a pat. I will do my best. I know I can do good on this. It's going to feel good to complete it. So change those thoughts. Is that, just positive self-talk? Yeah, you bet it is. It's not going to change that you have to do the work and do the things you need to do. You can't positive self-talk yourself into shape, but you can positive self-talk yourself about feeling better about your body and your attempts to get there. Here's an ant. We always get sick. Everybody in my family gets sick. Why am I even bothering with this? Becomes this positive, affirming thought. I have health today, and I'm keeping my family safe by following precautionary measures, teaching the kids to wash their hands, not touching our face, distancing, all these things. Positive, affirming thoughts, even about a negative situation, will lead to a positive mental outlook and a good attitude. How about this, ant? Something bad is going to happen. It always does. It always happens to me. Because something good is going to happen. It always does. Good things happen to me. Right? So take control of the negativity, take control of the confusion and the chaos, and begin to calm your spirit by deciding today to take control of your attitude. Just let your attitude come up to the surface and shine at this time through the chaos and the crisis and the confusion. Program your brain, lay new thought paths. Change patterns and thought trails. Think of a trail through the forest. Somebody walked that once, and then somebody walked it twice, then somebody walked it 3 times, then it walked until it became a trail. You're laying trails every day with your mind, little mind maps in your brain that put these patterns in place, either negative or positive. Be positive. One of the things we can do to retrain our brain is to be thankful. If there's anything good in your life, be thankful for it. Also, find good in situations and people. Be thankful. Find good in situations and people. Next, learn new things. Get your brain going somewhere else. Have fun. See the humor in things. And then look for opportunities in the challenges. So here you got your kids at home. I know everybody's cabin fever already, but man, look at it at what you can do to shape their young lives. What things can you do to get creative and help them understand this crisis and refresh and renew? What memories can you make right now? So lastly, as we wrap this up, man, when you lay down at night, think of the wins of the day and not the defeats. In sports, we always talk about watching game film. And when you lay your head on your bed at night, you need to watch game film. You need to analyze what happened during the day. What were the wins? What were areas where we could get better? But don't get beat up. Don't lay your head on the pillow at night just saying, woe is me. That's a bad attitude of defeatism, where that doubt's going to creep in. And then what's coming next is despair and then depression. Man, you don't want that. You're a winner. So we need to have the attitude of a winner. So when we lay our head on the bed at night, man, we just say, you know what? I gave it my all. And for those areas where we need forgiveness, we ask for it. And for those areas where we need to give forgiveness, we give it. And then for those areas where we need to check the ants in our brain and begin to address them with positive thoughts and affirming thoughts, we begin to do that. And so the next day we wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to be thankful today. Got one thing I'm going to do all day today is be thankful. And then maybe the next day after you're thankful and you start to get that pattern going, or 3 days later, you say, you know what? Today I'm going to recognize the good in others. In fact, I'm not just going to recognize the good in others, but I'm going to speak it out. I'm going to say things to my wife like, hey man, thank you so much. You know, I really discount the fact of how hard you work around here, but I just want you to know I appreciate everything you do. And I love that you take care of me so well. So thank you for that. Hey, that right there is a game changer. So just change your attitude. Look for good in people. Be thankful. Flip the script, man. Don't let it be a doubt, defeat, despair. Walk in hope. Walk in victory, right? Walk in great belief. Have faith. And I know you can do this and get better. So this message is for me. This is for the youth we serve. Hopefully you enjoy it. And all I got to say is God bless you, man. And you rock that attitude and change those ants. Get rid of them. Go to those positive, affirming thoughts. And I know that you'll find victory at the end of the day. And so will your downline, the other relationships. You will begin to infect those people with hope and positive vibes. God bless.